Cleveland City Council. Monday, June the 13th. We will begin today our 1 o'clock with special presentations and public comments. I'm going to look to Mr. Fivas. I don't have any requested public comments at this time. We do have a special presentation for the award-winning Mark Fiddler at 3, but he's not going to be here until that time. We'll do it then. So this is the opportunity, if you were here and would like to speak to the council for public comments, you have something that you would like to address the council on, or Christy Brandon, if you would like to address the council, that's fine. I just wanted to acknowledge your presence. And the 192-page agenda backups. Thank you. My goodness. And KP, thank you, Ms. Powers, for all of that. So I don't see anyone requesting to be recognized to address the council, so we will directly go to item number 2, which is our city manager report. Mr. Fivas, you are recognized. Chiefs, it's good to see you. Thanks for keeping us safe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. A couple items to start us off. I wanted to let everyone know that we finally reached an agreement with the state on the Inman Street diet. So we have that. Our next phase will be going to work with Cleveland Utilities on what that implementation of the actual street lights and redoing a lot of that infrastructure. So it's a major hurdle. I believe we're meeting tomorrow, Jonathan, to go over the details on that agreement with on the Inman Street diet, and I think that want to show that we're making progress on that initiative. Second thing that had been brought to my attention this last week was a discussion on the holiday schedule, particularly Juneteenth. It is a new federal holiday. The state of Tennessee does not recognize it. Well, they observe it, but they don't recognize it at this point. We've had some conversations. We met with our department managers this morning to kind of get their sense on the holiday. Talk to the mayor a little bit as well. What we would like to propose, and we're certainly open to any addition or any other direction from the council, is to give the city employees the holiday on, would be the next day after Juneteenth, which is June 19th, which is the celebration of the emancipation of slaves for this year, and then come back in the future with a new holiday schedule, because that's in our personnel manual, and that would need to be updated and revised and look at the number of holidays we have and trying to figure that. But in order to effectively observe this Juneteenth, which is scheduled for June 19th, Monday would be the 20th, we would want to do that. This is certainly in the purview. It is not my decision, it is the council's decision, and we're happy to have any feedback on that proposal.
Mr. Fivas, let me ask a clarification question on this next step. Obviously, to revise the policy manual in the future, the HR manual, personnel manual, would require ordinance 2 votes, so that's something down the road.
That's correct.
But to immediately address today's discussion, a member of the council could request for this to be added to new business at the 3 p.m. and we could address it at that time for Monday, June the 20th. Is there a member of the council that would like to make that recommendation? All right, so Councilwoman McKenzie requests that we have a discussion on Juneteenth at the 3 p.m. under new business, and we'll make that.
And what is that, we'll look at the holiday schedule in the context of, we're out of step with what the state does, we're not necessarily tied. Cleveland Utilities has something a little different. Is what we'll want to do is try to bring something that is consistent with a lot of different questions out there. So we'll have a full conversation internally and bring a proposal or a couple proposals to the council to look at. So,
Okay.
but
If you're
the
following
motion today would be just for
June 20 of 2022, and if you're following along alphabetically, that is agenda item O as in Oscar under new business.
Thank you so much. Moving on for today, our primary goal is to discuss the budget. I'm not going to go into detail. I talked a little bit at the last meeting, and there are some highlights to certainly go through the budget. I'm certainly going to address any specific questions regarding the budget in its entirety. After I'm done, we've asked Russell Dyer with the schools to give you a little update on their budget proposal, and Marshall Stinnett is here with Cleveland Utilities to go over their budget as well. So to start out, the good news in any budget conversation starts with the budget is balanced. And the second good talking point is that there is no tax increases that are included in this budget for this year. The budget was, we have a lot of priorities that we've worked through. We have priorities that in 2019 there were 8 priorities that were determined, and we're still working on some of those priorities, and I think we're probably due for having a budget priority meeting coming up before we get into our next budget to schedule the next couple of years. Overall, the budget we think fits and serves a lot of the necessary operational aspects of the city. Certainly police, fire, roads are always at the top of what we're trying to accomplish. We have a number of infrastructure highlights. Our street paving will remain to be strong as far as catching up. Our matrix and outside, as I think the mayor answered it when we're on item O, I didn't want to bring too much information, but with our new...
And I stand corrected, Christie's just reminded me, there's 2 additionals. That's gonna be, item Q is in Queen.
So we're on Queen.
Shocking.
So it's better than double A, right?
I guess it's better than double A.
So, so as far as investment in the streets that we have our new model that we had that we showed that shows every single street in the city, with the paving of now 20th Street, 17th Street, some of these other items that we're making some progress, and we can bring you back some of those ideas and some of the other pavings that are planned to be brought up in the future. So we feel that that's a good tool to be able to use so that each council member and each district can see, where their district is going from where we first showed it to you in 2021 to 2022. Are we making progress? Or where are the needs? Where are the red areas and stuff like that? Going through, at the last meeting, we went through a number of the projects. A lot of the projects for this year are focused on some of the projects that have been in the pipeline for a while. We're getting very close, I believe, Jonathan, on Gott Street.
Yes.
So we should be getting the next piece to get a letter to bid that out coming up fairly soon. And then we also want to get the Greenway Phase 6. That will be the next project that will, from the MPO state side. On the internal aspects of our work will be, did you have a question? Address this.
So is the golf project up against the June 30 deadline?
I think we got a little bit longer than June 30. I think, what was it, did they give us 30 more days?
Can we just make sure we,
Yeah. I think the Gulf Street they had us 30 days.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry.
So, yeah, we've got an additional.
I knew that was the,
Yeah.
what we were up against initially, so just as long as, yeah, as long as you're on that, thanks. Thanks, Joe.
And we'll keep you, we'll triple check that and make sure, I mean, we're pretty tuned in with that. So that, and then Phase 6 is the next project, and then Central will probably be the project after that as far as the projects that are state-funded type projects. The projects that we're working on that are more internal projects are, we have to finish up Parker Street, which they're just doing right now, which will finish off that corridor. Then we'll go to Edward Street and finish up the streetscaping on that as they finish up the development on Sanda Mill, and then we'll turn and pivot and start construction on the Greenway, Candy's Greenway section. We're having conversations with the Greenway Board on what material to use out there, whether it's concrete or whether it's asphalt. We're going back and forth, but that should start this summer. With our goal is to at least have that first section done by the end of the summer.
Joe,
Yes, sir.
let me take back just a moment to Central Avenue.
Yes.
We had talked at one time on that Central Avenue project about trying to tie Edward Street and all that in together. Is that still the plan?
Yeah, the Central Street project, as it's constituted right now, would be a complete new remake of the city, or of the street, with a streetscape, sidewalks on both sides, trees on both sides, having the elevated crosswalk area down at the section of Parker,
Right.
and then have the sidewalks going all the way out to the railroad, and then tie that into the sidewalk on Edward. So it would be a complete remake of that entire stretch of road from Broad Street all the way back in that direction.
Okay.
So, actually, it looks like we'll probably have to raise, we have to raise the road bed up probably 6 inches or so, so it'll be a fairly major project. All of the sewer infrastructure, I believe in that, is probably old clay pipe, and we're trying to figure out how to work through that. Is now a good time to replace that or not?
I think that this goes all the way to College Hill, doesn't really stop at the tracks.
Yes.
So for sidewalks and all, because I know we started at College Hill.
Yeah, yes. The sidewalks will go
To Galt, because
to Gaunt, and then we have the Gaunt piece that
Coming
goes
down.
all the way up to College Hill Recreation Center, and then it goes all the way down Gaunt, all the way out to Mosby.
I think sidewalks all the way to Galt will open up that area for even more development. So, yeah, I know that David, when I thought that tied all of that together, the Galt project, all the way down to Central to downtown.
Right.
And then the first street down to Canton.
Yes.
You mentioned the MPO, the third MPO project, so
Yeah.
that's how I pictured the whole thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you think about the context of when this is fully done after this year, is the sidewalks, is the connections all the way up Central to Gott. We have, sidewalks already on, what's across the street? I made sure you were chewing when I asked the question.
You wouldn't share with anybody else, so just go ahead.
Railroad's the first one. Railroad is the first.
Mill Street?
Bible short.
No,
Neil,
I'm talking on the
Millard?
other side of Inman Street, going up Gulf Street.
we're going up Gulf.
Which street are you talking about? Which one?
Take Gott and then it
The
changes
recreation?
names on the other side of the street.
Wildwood.
No, it's not.
Dooley.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
That's where Cameron's is. Cameron's out
Yes,
there.
yeah. So anyway, but in the picture I was trying to paint was not getting mixed up in that. But then you have a sidewalk from there that can go all the way down Ninth Avenue, get on the Chippewa, and take that all the way out to the Avery Johnson Park and the school. So you can literally walk from Avery Johnson Park on a sidewalk all the way to downtown.
And with our school district here, we can now walk from Ninth Bower to the AOP and Roche's.
That's right.
So
Yep.
it's Cleveland Middle and Candy's Cherokee that's, will have their own greenway soon enough, which is part of our discussion.
So,
When this is all done, it'd be interesting to know how many feet are actually connected in the city. That you could go from where we're talking about here to Home Depot, down to the Village Green. It'd have to be a tremendous number. Sidewalks, greenways, all of it connected
I'd say we can
together.
measure that in miles.
Miles.
Yeah,
okay.
miles.
Cameron already has that yardage, what's in place, but for our sidewalks,
Yeah.
it's huge.
yeah, I mean, if you think about it in the context of sidewalks, that you think about from Candy's Creek Cherokee Elementary School, that there'll be a sidewalk from there. We put in the request for an MMA project the last meeting, that you'd be able to get from there all the way underneath the bridge at 25th Street. We have the MMA grant to do from Georgetown to Peerless. And then we have the TA grant to get from Peerless to Inman Street. Then you can get on a sidewalk all the way down to the greenway that connects in with Lee University. So you'll literally be able to walk on a greenway from Candy's Creek Elementary School all the way down to Lee University downtown.
No, Mr. Berry will appreciate all that information.
So there's method to the madness, and we probably need to have, in fact, the next meeting, we're going to exhibit some of that. I think that would be a good conversation. We have a number of the projects that are coming up. We have the exit at 27th Street. We have the Mouse Creek project, Mouse Creek intersection project that the council at the last meeting approved to start doing the putting in of the mast arms. Last meeting, we ordered the mast arms for the Peerless intersection, and we're working at Frontage Drive as well. So many projects to go through. One of the things that will be contracted out, and those projects will be contracted out to add in there as far as priorities. One that I think with some of the development has pushed is the intersection at 20th and Michigan Avenue and connecting in Minnis Road. That's becoming an extremely high priority, and we will be taking out bids and having someone start the designing and then getting ready to bid that out. And we would like to get that done this year as well. All kinds of things. If you read the budget, I don't want to go through every little item. The police and fire budgets, we did give the additional $400,000 for apparatus and cars for the police department. The fire department did get $200,000 to repair the fire roofs at some of their facilities. They're at end of life, and it's not a great sight to see water coming in on our employees. So we're with the approval of this, we'll probably start that process and get those replaced. We have the one item that Chief Gibson requested, which was a automated license plate reader system. It's fairly cost effective. It's a few $1,000s a camera. Essentially, they'll be able to, they're set up strategically that they'll be able to look at license plates that are coming off, primarily interstates, and it will automatically trip a button. Is there something that license plate, is it a stolen car? Is there something about the car? And it gives a report to 911 that someone's entering that hits one of those items. Yes, sir.
Are those fixed or are they mobile units?
They're generally fixed, but they can be moved. I mean, they're just little cameras.
But it's mounted on a pole?
Yeah, we'll have some level of we'll have some level of show and tell opportunity for you when we get ready. The issue right now in Tennessee is why that may be delayed a little bit is that with the new license plates, the blue license plates, is they have to upgrade or change the software to see the blue and the white. So we're just making sure that they do that and all the bugs are worked out before we do that. Chief Smith is here. Did I get some of that about right?
Yes, sir. Chief, can I ask, what kind of databases it referred against?
It's a large database, and that's one thing about the license plate reader. Different companies have different things, but it's shared information. If we're a member of this, if we join up and do business with a certain company, we have access to all the license plate readers with all our other customers across the country. So you can track vehicles. So they gave some examples of a car leaving New York, and they tracked that vehicle throughout the state of New York, into Virginia, on through Tennessee, all the way into Florida. So we'll have access to not just the license plates that are read here in Cleveland, but basically all across the country.
Maybe the genesis of my question was more about civil liberties of those. How do they handle and respond to that?
There is a lot of, I guess, protocols in that, and that has been somewhat controversial from the start, as far as the information and what's done with it. But I think the company has been really, really careful to make sure that information is secured. And just for law enforcement purposes, we can't just randomly track Councilman Estes and find out where you're going day to day. We basically have to have a reason, sort of like we do through the National Crime Information Center, to run a tag or whatever. We have to have a law enforcement reason to inquire on the information on this license plate or where it's been. So we can't just, it's not subject to just trying to impede on anybody's liberties or anything like that. It's all law enforcement sensitive information.
Can I request their verbiage on how they if we bid this out and go with this company, just
Yes, sir.
their documentation on that?
Yeah, and that was actually the first question I had for Mark and Chief Smith when we first had that, is what we'll do is we're kind of in a waiting time to figure their technology out. But when we bid it out, we need to address the civil liberties, we need to address how it works, and we need to go and show you what it entails. So by approving this, you're not approving that it's all going to show up, is that we have to bring the bid back to you, and there'll be a full conversation on all the potential for that.
Thank you.
Bill, I was actually looking at one of those websites like Carvana the other day. And, used to be you had to put in what year the car was and what the options were. If you had the license plate, you could put it in and it would pop up what kind of vehicle it was.
It's already out there.
Carvana's
already got it.
It's already out there.
So it's a matter of just having tying it. The readers will tie it all together.
Mayor, Stacy, there's other cities that use this system, correct? This is not, this is not something new technology.
No, it's been out for a few years.
Yeah.
I think it actually was first established probably 20 years ago, but it's
Right.
taken a new role in probably the last 8 or 10 years.
Yeah.
And I know like Chattanooga used it,
Mhm.
Tennessee Highway Patrol used it.
Right.
Most of your bigger metropolitan areas use this technology, and I know that a lot of neighboring communities, for instance, Hendersonville, Tennessee, has a lot of traffic that comes from Nashville.
Right.
A lot of stolen vehicles and
Correct.
really a lot of their I guess the criminals that they're looking for may be coming from Nashville, traveling into these smaller communities
Correct.
and committing the crimes. And I know they've had Hendersonville as an example of somebody that's had a lot of success. And us, you probably are familiar with the trouble we've had with a lot of Chattanooga residents coming to Cleveland and committing
Mhm.
crimes. Well, a lot of times they're doing it in stolen vehicles or vehicles that maybe that a wanted person is inside of or is registered to or whatever. And this technology will actually alert our officers maybe when some of those people are kind of coming into the city.
Not only y'all, but it alert the state, national too, so Amber Alerts is a good example of that. If it's Amber Alert, they can put it out there, and if they see the tag they're looking for, they can call you and say, hey, we saw so-and-so at this site, and y'all run out there to see. Correct? You know on that, Ron? So
Yes.
people are missing, kids are missing stuff, it's
Yeah,
important.
it's not just for, like I said, criminal activity or things like
No.
that. One of the biggest things it's done is save several lives, especially
Right.
with the Amber Alerts and the
Right.
Silver Alerts with the dementia patients. And it can alert you and say, they just went by exit 27, they're going southbound on I-75. We can have officers there and
State too. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. And Chief, it's not just hypothetical, it happened this week. One of the shooters from Chattanooga, as I understand, was apprehended here in Bradley County.
Yes,
So it is very relevant to keeping our citizens safe. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fives.
And very quickly, some of our park priorities is obviously Mosby Park is currently under construction. We have a little work to do with Stewart Park. We have to fix the parking lot at Tinsley Park, and of course the new Jim Sharp Park. And along with, we're having conversations with the Soccer Association, having some improvements out at the soccer field. Those are probably 5 Parks and Recreation priorities, and are outlined in here. We have, in this budget, there's a number of items. We have $50,000 for the Cleveland Bradley Community Service Agency to help them with their future construction of a homeless. They have a building, they just need to convert it into more beds. The county is going to partner with us 50-50 on that. We also allowed them that they're in the need of having a vehicle to drop off Wheels on Meals, or Meals on Wheels program, that this money could also be used if they needed to pick up a vehicle for that as well. There's funds for the Carrying Place, 5 Points Museum, there's a $50,000 contribution to repair the roofs, HVAC, have a digital banner sign out front, and help with the, they were awarded the Smithsonian National Youth Summit and Democracy thing, so some of that money can be used for that. And then the public library has some funds, had a conversation with the county, and they, right now it's for $25,000 to look at replacing some of the roofs. That would be a 50-50 match with the county and the city. Moving to employee compensation, health plan, we have a 3.5 salary increase for all employees who are eligible. And we're looking for our health care benefits, which is, I'm happy to address any questions. We're right in the midst of having this conversation, so everything isn't exactly locked in. What we know is that we're going to offer, right now we have 1 health care plan, and we intend to offer 3 health care plans for our employees. these healthcare plans, one would be a plan that would be a high deductible type plan that would benefit either very low users or very high users. There's some assistance with being able to use that. We have a second plan that would be very similar to our current plan, except that it is piggybacked on a direct primary care facility, which is basically a specialized clinic that you can get your diabetic medications, you can get for free. You basically, instead of when you usually go to your physician or some kind of urgent care that you pay your $30 or $50 to go in, is that this would set up that all of those office visits are zero for employees. And then the third option would be to keep the current plan. We don't intend to have any increases in any of these benefits for our employees. In fact, if they choose a couple of these other plans, they would probably save money off of what they are currently saved. So we think that in these times of $5 gas prices and going to the grocery market, that being sensitive to those employee needs is important. And we'll have open enrollment for everyone in the next couple months to roll that out. We have much more information on that. We think it's a positive thing. More choices, potential lower cost, but not higher cost, so we think that's a positive thing. Overall, happy to address any additional questions on the budget, and then we'll let the schools and CU discuss their budget.
Any questions or comments from the council?
I've got one. I got one I know.
If you'll speak into your mic for
Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
staff, that's okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I dropped the mic.
Mic drop.
In the budget, Joe, it was talking about gas for following year in certain departments, like the police department, for example. It shows that in 2002, revised budget's $241,000, and we budget for $194. That's a difference of lowering it $46,000. Is that sustainable on this part? I mean, is that? I mean, with gas prices, you mentioned gas prices went up, so they've got to go up, 30, 40%. Should that reflect that, or is that, we got money sitting back somewhere else for that?
Well, our departments and finance department look at that. I think it's fair to say that on a monthly basis, in fact, we talked about it at our staff meeting this morning, is that it's something that our staff frequently goes over and looks and see how it's working within their entire budget. And if there's issues, then we do budget amendments and shift the costs over if we seem like there's any issues. But sometimes it's under what the projections are, sometimes it's over, and you just smooth it out as you go through. Every budget's a living, breathing document that's meant to be amended and react to what's going on in the world.
Is there funds to do those budget amendments to it, if we need them?
Sean, do you feel we're okay with the gas?
So I went back and looked at the actuals from the last hour. Police and fire were under 40%. So I feel okay with it. That's where we take a conservative approach when we look at our revenues and we can change that if we need to some.
Yeah, okay.
At the time we were back in probably February when we began looking at those numbers. We weren't quite where we are with gas prices then.
Well, from statements, gas prices are going to go up tremendously more before the end of the year, so that's the only thing I'm cautious about, is making sure.
I think we do.
Okay. Mayor, the other thing I've got, the stormwater. Stormwater was they looked at a tax, I think it's a 46 increase on that, is that correct? That was in the budget. It went
Is
from
that right, John?
Went from 325 to 365?
Yeah.
On that part? Okay. So there was an increase in the budget then for the people, right? You mentioned it wasn't a tax increase in the statute, but it is a thing. Is there any way to alleviate that? I mean, we talk about staff and people, you know, is there something we need to continue on that part? Is that something we can help the people out because of at the pumps and grocery stores?
Yeah, we're comfortable with what we put in the budget.
I mean, can we take it out though? Do we really need the 40 cents? I mean, to sustain?
We have additional costs, and, you know, we have a lot of stormwater funds that we're trying to react to, and it hasn't went up in 10 years.
It's never gone, this will be the first.
Would this be the time to do that though, with the times as hard as it is? Or, I mean, would it wait till next year? Or, I mean,
We have an Army Corps project, going to be bidding, the bid opening is August the 10th.
yeah, okay.
And then 3 more Army Corps projects after that.
That'll be about a $2 million project.
So it brings in $1.8 million, correct?
I think it's a little less than that.
Okay.
There's a fee that cleaning utilities puts on it for the.
All right. I was just trying to help alleviate the pressure on the citizens of the fleet. You know, a lot of people with fixed incomes and stuff. It's something that I was hoping we could talk about prior before the budget reading, that we could maybe make some decisions or hopefully help out and do some things that be proactive, because there are increases in food utilities and us too, that's going to be passed on that part. So I was hoping we could address that before. But it is what it is. It's in the budget. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments or questions? Ms. Travis, I believe you said Dr. Dyer was next, or Marshall? Who's got the bigger budget? Who wants to go first?
That's not a fair question.
All right, we're good to go. Well, good afternoon. It's good to be with everyone today. Good to see you. We've made it to summertime in our schools, but summer doesn't mean that schools aren't open anymore. Now we have summer learning camps underway, and we have a lot of students that are involved in our programming this summer. So that's exciting, and good to see our teachers still engaging with our students each and every day. So looking at our budget, we can go to the first screen. Great. There will be an upcoming change at the state level. As you probably have kept up the news, the state is moving away from the BEP, which is our current funding model. This is the last year for the BEP. And we're moving to the Tennessee Investment in Student Achievement Act, which was approved this year, also known as TISA. There's other names for it as well, but I go with TISA. That's what I've learned to call this. And that'll be our funding mechanism from the state starting 2023-24. And from the Department of Education, the goals of TISA are to do the following. 1, empower each student to read proficiently by 3rd grade. Big goal. Prepare each high school student or graduate to succeed in the post-secondary program or career of the graduate's choice, and to provide each student with the resources needed to succeed regardless of the student's individual circumstances. So whether the student may be a special education student, maybe an English learner, whatever the case may be. Now, due to TISA, we are expecting to see additional state funding coming in to school systems across the state for the most part, including here in Cleveland. So that's something we're excited about, and we're waiting now to go through the rulemaking process in the State Board of Education and also the Tennessee Department of Education to see what the final rules will be for all of these different changes. When we go to the next screen, we're going to talk about the ties to the strategic plan. I gave each of you a copy of our current strategic plan. This is the layperson's example of the strategic plan. It's much more detailed on the work behind the scenes, but at least you can have a flavor for what we're working on as goals through 2025. It's important, just like your budget, that we tie our budget to our strategic plan. It includes math. For example, this year will be a math adoption year, so it's time for us to spend money to buy new math textbooks and to buy new math programming that goes along with our laptops and everything else that we're involved in. So that's a pretty substantial fee. STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and math is a continuation for us. So we want to continue STEM instruction throughout each school, We want to offer a lot of events, including STEAM camps. We had a STEM camp earlier this summer already. That was a 3-day camp held at the high school for elementary students, and we probably had about, I think, 80 to 90 students there each of those days, having a great time learning about STEM education. Tango Flight. You probably have heard a little bit about Tango. I know it's been in the newspaper. Tango is a new program we'll be starting at the high school. It's a neat program tying in our aviation students, our auto mechanics students, but also our mechanical engineering students. And what they'll be doing, actually creating and building an airplane. So over the course of the upcoming year, our students will start from a kit, and they're responsible for building a plane that will actually go up in the air about this time next year. So that will be very exciting.
Are you gonna fly in it?
Yeah, you gonna.
After the test flight, I'll be glad to. So there's some details to go through as far as that goes. The owner of Tango Flight is the first one. He's the person that goes up and certifies it along with the FAA. So just like a Boeing 777 has to go through the FAA inspections, this plane has to do exactly the same thing and pass everything. So pretty neat program that'll be happening. And ELA, English Language Arts, that's a new high quality curriculum we've recently purchased for ongoing professional development part of our budget. Tutoring and credit recovery, we have a lot of tutoring taking place now. We call it high dose tutoring, where we group a teacher and no more than 3 students together throughout the year, after school, bus transportation provided, dinner provided after school. A lot of things go into that. Very exciting to see our students engaging in that, as well as life skills. We want to continue to work on student skills, not just academic, but how we build them to be people of character, people who go out and ready to work in our community and different businesses. They know when to turn their cell phone off and get to work, those kind of things. That's life skills. We're doing Capturing Kids' Hearts. We've hired new social workers coming in, behavior support team, and as well as the interventions that are mentioned here. So a lot of things are happening that tie our budget back to our strategic plan and what we're trying to accomplish. As far as our employees go this upcoming budget cycle, we are also, I heard 3.5%, we're also doing a 3.5% increase and step increase for all eligible employees. That's an important part of what we're doing. These last 2 years dealing with COVID has been very trying for all of us, especially our folks that work in our school buildings and our bus drivers and maintenance and everyone else. So we want to make sure we do all we can to help them in the system along the way. So 3.5% raise and step increase for all eligible employees. We're also looking at our pay scales. We know we need to do some work, especially on our pay scales for teacher assistants, school level administrative assistants, as well as school interventionists. So we're trying to take different employee groups over the next 3 years and work on bringing those pay schedules up to a place where we can keep our best employees and stop them from going to other positions that may pay better. So we're trying to do our best to try to keep up with those, including our substitute teachers. And for our certified staff, you can see they'll be rising up to $100 per day, 4-year degree, $90 per day, and others $85 per day. So we're always looking for good substitutes. If anybody's looking for a part-time position out here in the crowd today, that and bus drivers are 2 big needs that we have at this point. So we're always open to that. We've also listened to our principals and our staff and our schools, and we know there's some requested supports that they have. We are seeing an increase, just like every school in the nation, with behavioral and mental issues dealing with students. So to help support that in our school system, we're adding to our behavior and life skills support team. We're hiring moving a behavior and life skills specialist that has been grant funded off of grant funding into our regular budget, because this person has done a tremendous job and will be leading the team of trying to help our administrators, help our teachers hands-on in classrooms with some of the issues that they are now dealing with. We're hiring a new school psychologist to assist school teams with mental health and other supports. Also hiring a learning support intervention that will be budgeted through federal funds that we receive. Special education behavior support interventions will be targeted and budgeted through our federal ESSER funds. Behavior class teacher and assistant for the elementary schools will be budgeted through federal ESSER funds, as will our social workers. We have 4 social workers, actually 5, now that work for Cleveland City Schools, and they're doing a tremendous job. We were able to get those folks out into the classrooms this year, and it's made a huge difference, and we're going to continue to look at that. Our English language students population continues to increase every year, so we are adding an additional ESL teacher this year. We've added at least one since I've been here every year, usually more than that. So, if we can find additional ESL teachers, we would additionally probably add them as well, because that's very much a needed position. We're also adding 2 new additional teacher positions to be utilized as needed. We know if we get closer to August, student numbers come in. Usually after the 4th of July holiday, people start moving in and registering, and that's when we notice more numbers are needed. We're also hiring at Blythe Bauer an elementary operations coordinator. We have an operations coordinator at the middle school now to help with the assistant principals. We're going to do the same thing at Blythe Bauer. Blythe Bauer is a large elementary school, and they have a lot of needs. So we're hiring someone who can help with facility needs, help with bus discipline, help take some of the things off the plates of the school administrator so they can spend more time in the classrooms with our students and teachers. And we're also hiring a communications coordinator who will be added to assist with school and system-wide communication efforts. That's been something that's really come to light as a need for our school district, is dealing with communications, whether it be crisis communications, whether it be helping to promote different activities in schools. Somebody can go out and be part of leading that effort to connect the school community to the home community, and as we look at internal communications as well. When you look at our expenditure summary, I know that's impossible to read from anywhere up here, but what it basically shows is the vast majority of our funds are going to affect what's happening in the classroom environment, whether it be vocational education, whether it be special education, whether it be regular instruction or other means. Large amount of our funds goes directly to affect what's happening in the classroom environment, and that's something, of course, we're very proud of. When you look at our overall revenues, next screen, please. So our increases this year to the BEP based on the April estimate. BEP estimates start in April, May, June. July is when you get your final estimate or final number from the state. So right now we're in estimates. We're looking at an increase of $1.4 million basically from the state of Tennessee to come into our funds. There's been an increase in sales tax funds we get there, increase in property tax. So our total revenues for next year, our budget, would be $54,893,073. We are using a portion of our fund balance to buy a new math curriculum. That's a good need that we have, and that's a good use of those funds. So our total available funds, $55,305,655. One more screen there. The final thing I wanted to share, just other updates. I basically want to let you know that we have a long-term facilities update plan that is underway right now that will be shared at our August 15th work session of the school board, as well as August 15th school board meeting. This plan includes a lot of what we think we will be needing as far as facility updates in the future, what we're looking at as far as updates and renovations to current schools and office space, what we need to be looking forward to as far as planning purposes, working closely with the planning department here at the City of Cleveland. Appreciate everyone's help here. This effort is a board-approved effort that's been led by Hal Taylor, our operations supervisor, director, as well as Jeff Elliott, who's been on this, Charlie Cogdill from the school board, and we have Brian Templeton from Upland Design, and then Don Shell from Community Tectonics Architects, that are both, all those teams, including myself, are working together to create a plan that we can later share with you that will really update all of us on what the projected needs are of the school system related to facilities are for the next, we're hoping 15 to 20 years. We want to make sure that we know what's happening and that you know what's happening and what our projections are on all of that. So with that, that's my presentation for you today. I'd glad to try to answer your questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Dyer. Any questions from the council? Councilman Webb.
Dr. Dyer, I read an article recently that someone had written about a concern on the new funding formula.
Right.
That 3, 4, 5 years down the road, there was going to be an issue. Could you address that?
I can tell you what I've heard the commissioner say in hearings in Nashville. What the commissioner says is that there should not be an increase to local funding needs for the vast majority of school districts across the state. Now, in some specific areas, there might be a need where they have not stepped up to fund the way they should.
Okay.
Our current projections from the state show that there should not be a need for an increase in local funding here in Cleveland for our school district, based on everything that I've seen so far.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Sure.
I can tell you that the entire 12 years I served in Nashville, the BEP formula was questioned that it wasn't paying enough. So that's what's being replaced.
I think the concern was that the new formula was going to be beneficial on the front end for a few short years, and then there was going to be some kind of turn in it
Right.
that might not be as beneficial.
Right.
Was the article.
Well, I'm just telling you what I hear at hearings and everything, but that's what I know as of this moment anyway.
Councilman Cassidy.
Dr.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for coming to the presentation. I noticed you got a new entrance in Cleveland Middle School.
We
Is
do,
that- is
we
that-
do. We have
How's
a
that
temporary
working?
entrance right now, and from all accounts, it's working. So
Is
it's not optimal, but it's working, and that's
Okay.
temporary, so we can get the construction done and then open the regular entrance back up for the fall.
Okay, is that entrance gonna be, Jonathan, can you check on it and see and let us know if that's gonna be a second entrance, or we talked about having an off-ramp or something that, that's something they put in, they're gonna tear out, or they're gonna keep it there?
I can fill you in, that's strictly a temporary entrance.
Temporary entrance?
Until we get the main entrance put back in place.
Wow.
And then
Well,
that'll be
they
poured
spent a lot of
back.
money on that.
And we did not spend a dime on
Yeah.
that, so just so you know.
Darrell, what's the relationship between Brian Templeton and Don Shell?
Well, I know Don Shell, and I'm gonna look at Hal Taylor. Don Shell did the original, well, I say the original, the last facility study that went up to the point of where Candy's Creek was called for in the study. Brian is our,
What year was that?
you remember how, what year?
1996.
Councilman,
1996.
Councilman, could I ask if you'd speak into your microphone, just for the staff?
So that went up through 96, or was created in 96.
Created in 96.
Created in 96. And then Brian Templeton is our current architect that we've used for a lot of projects here locally.
So community tectonics is why I'm up here now.
Right.
Frustration with Mayfield.
Right.
I would beg the school district to do their homework
Yeah.
before going down a road that others in the state have had massive problems with. I was blown away that you did, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Okay? I'm speaking, not maybe to you, maybe to
Yeah.
the board,
Yeah.
maybe to Hal.
I
There's a
understand.
history here before you were here
Okay.
that is deep and very pertinent to what happens in this town and the schools.
Appreciate that. But yes, they have been working together. Of course, our team has too on that. So just something to,
Well, maybe you put an RFP out now for a facility study, rather than, I know it's a contracted service.
right,
It's your purview, it's your board's purview.
right.
I don't see a board member here.
Not
Just
today.
please take that back.
Glad to. Glad to.
Any other comments or questions from the council? All right, thank you, Dr. Dyer.
Thank you all.
Go Thunderbirds.
There you go.
My granddaughter's school. Mr. Stinnett.
All right, well, good afternoon. Thank you guys for the opportunity to present to you the Cleveland Utilities budget for fiscal year 2023. I will be reviewing most of our fiscal year summary, so if you do have a copy of your budget book from Cleveland Utilities, it'll be on the front page. If not, I'll try to go through this and give you good updates. For fiscal year 2023, all three divisions are forecasting a very small increase in their volumetric usages, whether it be electric kilowatt hours, water for sales, or wastewater for treatment. Those revenues are respectively approximately $150 million across all three divisions. We are forecasting the expenses in the fiscal year 2023 on average to be 8 to 9% higher than they were in fiscal year 2022. That's on average. We do have raw input materials that we are not able to price on a yearly basis at this point. We are only getting contracted prices for 30 days to 90 days. And those include all of your raw materials that are necessary for the water and wastewater treatment. So as you can see, those numbers are actually up anywhere between 40 and 65%, and those are only guaranteed for 90 days. So at the point that we get to the end of this, we are anticipating that those raw inputs could be north of 70 to 75% above pricing this time last year. That is just due to the market that we're in, and unfortunately, the times that we're all having to work through. So very similar to all the challenges that you discussed earlier. I will point out that all three divisions are forecasted with a net income very similar to where we were this time last year. That is taking into account the rising increases. You will also see in your budget that these next 3 to 5 years have very significant investment in capital facilities. As you all are very aware, the city of Cleveland is growing at a very rapid pace. Looking back through our records, we have grown at almost a double-digit increase in customers over the last 10 years. That is just exponential growth for a utility to keep up with.
Double digit annually?
Yes. Yes, we've added customer accounts of almost 10% over the last 10 years, year over year. So it's very significant growth. You will see in your budget, you do have all of the beginning debt balances. I will say all of those are thankfully less than they were forecasted this time last year. You will see the actual net increases to debt. So with these large capital investments in all three divisions, we are forecasting debt borrowings of approximately about $22.5 million during fiscal year 2023. The vast majority of those being in the water and wastewater divisions. Those are predominantly focused around a conversion from our chlorine treatment, which is obviously one of our very expensive inputs at this moment, to sodium hypochlorite. And that will go into effect at our facility, so at the Cleveland Filter Plant. And then also at the wastewater plant, we'll also be converting from a liquid chlorine over to a UV ultraviolet light treatment facility. So both of those each have their own benefits. Obviously, safety is the number one concern. When you are dealing with liquid chlorine, that is a very dangerous product. Thankfully, Cleveland Utilities District, we've been able to manage that effectively. But the ability to remove that as a hindrance to safety is always something that we're looking forward to. And additionally, with the way that pricing is going in the market, this could potentially look at being a cost savings driver as well. So those are all key benefits for us in making these decisions.
Marshall, those two projects, what's the timeline on them?
So at the present moment, we actually just let the bid on the ultraviolet for the wastewater facility at our last board meeting. Construction is timelined to begin hopefully in the late winter to early spring of next year. And the filter plant is actually already finished with its engineering design. Hopefully that project will be bid and let this summer. So hopefully construction will be complete within the next 2 years.
How many years?
2.
Have you budgeted over the 2 years or?
That is correct, yes. So you will see in the capital budgets for water and wastewater, what you'll typically see is the engineering piece in the first year. You'll see construction that ends up in years 2 and 3. So a total project, or a total capital project of this magnitude would actually come across 3 fiscal years. They're very large projects. Actually, the wastewater plant will consist of constructing a new building and then housing that new equipment inside that building. You will see there also the existing debt payments. I will say thank you again to the council for allowing the city and the utilities the opportunity to fix that debt structure. I know that we all didn't get the rate that we were hoping for in this last bond issue, but I will say that rate is better today than we all thought it would be. So thank you again for allowing us to fix that debt structure and help secure a revenue stream that will line up with its debt payments. Moving on to rate adjustments, I will say that the electric division is not forecasting a rate increase for fiscal year 2023. That is something we are very proud of. I do want to mention, though, that the electric division is not immune from the increases in material costs that we're seeing. But thankfully, we have been able to utilize the pandemic relief credits that TVA has passed through, and we'll be able to utilize those to offset any future rate increases that the electric division has needed. So right now, we are forecasting them for the next year. For the water division, we are forecasting an 8.5% rate increase, and that is just for internal use. HUC, so Ohio Water Utility Commission, has also forecasted a rate increase, and that rate increase would then be passed on. Today, that estimated total rate increase would be 9.63%. I know that sounds as if it's a very, very large increase, but based on what we have seen as far as growth and new infrastructure that's necessary, as well as the actual raw input cost into the utility. We do feel as if that is the minimalistic rate increase that would be necessary to keep the utility being able to still provide for the future and for the growth of Cleveland, but also be able to continue the same high level of operation that we previously had. Just as reference, that rate increase equates to approximately $2.26, so $2.26 per month on an average residential water bill.
How much did you say?
$2.26. For the wastewater division, we are forecasting a rate increase of 7%, and that, again, is tied back to the same things that we've discussed in the past. The infrastructure necessary to continue, as well as the operating necessities. And for reference, that is forecasted at a $2.96 increase per month for a residential customer. There is a merit increase forecasted, and it is the same number that the city and the schools have presented at 3.5%, as well as an increase to the payment in lieu of taxes to the city in all three divisions. One other point to note is there's only one additional employee forecasted for all three divisions moving into fiscal year 2023, and that will fall actually into your water division. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody would have, or go over any specific projects that I can answer for today.
Any comments or questions from the council? Councilman Webb?
Couple of questions, Marshall. I think I know the answer to this one, but we have a couple of resolutions later on the agenda about some SRF funding. I do know that they do a rate review. The increase in rates that you're projecting, were those a part of that review?
That is correct. So we presented those in the first review that the state did, which was approximately about 6 months ago. Those were as of a projected budget. But the one that we just presented to SRF approximately 30 days ago was presented as a CU board approved item with city council pending. And that is not uncommon in our line of work. We do typically have to present the current year's rates as well as the forecasted rates for the next 3 fiscal years. And that ties back to making sure that you have the necessary revenue stream to pay for that existing debt as well as the forecasted debt that you're looking for.
But your approval to participate in the SRF was based upon these numbers that you presented?
That's correct. The first borrowing was based on that. The second borrowing will be based on their pending review.
Second question is, I believe in the electric division, I believe we only have one area now that's operating under franchise with Volunteer Electric.
No, we currently have 2. We have put Volunteer Electric on notice that we are purchasing one of the 2.
Right, okay.
We'll complete
But that's
that.
in progress.
Yes, we hope to complete that if transformers can be ordered and arrive within the next week.
Are there any plans to put Volunteer on notice for the other area?
Yes, so we did give Volunteer Electric notice on the existing franchise agreement approximately 4 months ago. Since then, they have had a CEO change, and we have sent an existing new request to the new CEO asking for those numbers to be presented so that we can evaluate the cost and whether or not it's feasible.
So if that were approved, then there would be no more franchise areas operating.
That would be correct. The only tricky part to answering that is new areas are annexed into the city, especially into what is called these donut holes. Each of those would have to be evaluated independently because they are typically in a
But I'm talking about those 2 that have been in existence for so long.
That's correct. Those franchise agreements that have been
Okay.
outstanding for every 10 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other questions for Mr. Stinnett? Marshall, thank you for your work, and please thank our friends at CU, and especially the hard work in getting the power restored last week. I know it was a tough day, but the team came together and got the power back on, and we're grateful.
That's correct. We obviously never want to have power outages, but when we do, we want to make sure we get them back on as quick as we can and safely we can. We have a very dedicated operations staff that work tremendously well together. It's unfortunate that it did go out twice in one day, but thankfully we were able to get it back restored successfully and safely. and no real damage to the facility, so that's always.
Has the cause been identified yet?
It has, they're still finishing up that report, and hopefully we'll get that released in the very near future.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stinnett. That takes us to the review of the 3 o'clock agenda with Mr. Fivas again. Welcome back, Mr. Fivas. The 3 o'clock agenda that's rapidly approaching.
Yes, thank you once again. 3 o'clock agenda, trying to go through that. Certainly if anyone has any specific questions on any items, let me know. We'll start off and give a well-deserved award recognizing Mark Bidler, who is the Tennessee Aeronautics Commission Award winner for Airport Manager of the Year. I think that that's a wonderful opportunity. Mark, as many of you know, has indicated that he was going to be retiring this summer, and we're actively looking for a replacement on that. So at 3 o'clock we can show our recognition of what he's done for our city and the Jetport. Moving on to the public hearing. Item 6A, we have a public hearing to hear the request to zone 3.12 acres from PUD 20 to R2 for a property located on Parker Avenue. This item, as you will hear, and it's the Parker Avenue over by Smith Drive. It's not Parker Street, it's Parker Avenue. Is that this is actually, from what I understand from the last proposal I saw, is to make a change so that they can upgrade to have less density in this area. Is that correct, Jonathan? So you're going from a PUD to R2, which will create less density. I think instead of townhomes, they want to build single-family homes in that area. It'd be nice shot in the arm down in that area. I think that's in Ms. McKenzie's district. And we have item 6B. We have a public hearing to hear public comments requesting a property owner from the property owner to rezone 2.33 acres from CH/R2 to CH for property located on North Lee Highway. And then you have item 6C, a public hearing to hear public comments concerning a request for the property owner to amend PUD 8, which would include 12.7 acres to include car washes to allowable use. This is the lot in front of the apartments, the Spring Creek Apartments. One thing that we should be concerned about is noise in that area on abutting there. They haven't turned in, this just allows car washes as a use, but when they bring their plan, we will have to make sure that it satisfactorily protects those owners over there. So just to be aware of that. It has nothing to do with this vote, but they are looking at a car wash in that area. Then you have item 6D, which is to hear public comments concerning a request for the city of Cleveland to amend the Cleveland Municipal Code. And this is for some changes to our billboards. Then you have item 6E, which is a public hearing to hear public comments concerning a request for the city of Cleveland in reference to municipal code in reference to defining nightclubs and amending allowable uses. Many of you know we've had some nightclubs operating in the downtown area. 400 or 500 people attending, probably 90% from outside of Cleveland. It causes quite a disturbance for our law enforcement. We are not looking to shut those down, but to make sure that if anyone's going to have that type of facility, that they have to get some type of special use permit to utilize that. These events cause a lot of interaction with our police and actually our fire department as well. Did I get that kind of right, Jonathan?
Yes. This particular hearing will change it to, basically, they will be allowed in CH only.
That's right. So not in the downtown?
Not in the, no, not central business district, it's CH zoning, and then they would have to come, we're gonna amend it to add a permit, like a license or not license.
So, then you have item 6F, which is a public comments concerning approval of a planned service for 238 acres from unincorporated county to located at Stone Lake Road. I think we'll have a conversation at the 3 o'clock meeting on this. Very positive comments we've heard. This is it's an important development for the city. We've already heard that there's other commercial entities looking at relocating to the area for this. But we should also make sure we do our due diligence and make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's. And items G and H are the annexation and then the rezoning of that property. And then item I is the here's public comments on the budget. Consent agenda is 7A, and getting into items that we passed at the last meeting, which is the rezoning of 4.7 acres at Ralph Buckner Boulevard from IL to R2. They want to do some mid-level density housing in that area. Then we have item 7B, which is the final passage of zoning ordinance 2211, rezoning 4.2 acres located in McCoy Crossing from CH to planned unit development. This is Champy's Chicken, trying to get that development underway. If I recall, Jonathan, there's multiple buildings in this plan. I think there's 4 buildings that would be in that area, so it would be a major addition to that commercial area. And 7C, which is amending the budget, fiscal 22 budget. You have item 7D, authorizing the mayor to sign the fiscal year 23 TDOT state highway maintenance contract. This is an item that we do on an annual basis. It goes through Public Works. Basically, we get compensated for when we fill potholes, when we do our do the grass cutting, and we get there's a fair compensation. It could be better, but it's better than nothing. And then you have item 7E, which is the donation of the 2004 Bluebird bus from the city schools to be used for the Cleveland Police Department. I believe that they're using it for the bomb squad equipment, is what I've been told. And then you have 7F, which is appropriations for fiscal year 23. And then these are all just budget-related items that we do anytime we approve the budget. The city's debt management policy, as you see on there, is not changing. We did find a notation in the actual budget itself that says that the variable has a minimum of 40, or a variable of 50%, I should say 40%. We'll correct that for the next reading. It's not a matter of, it's not in this policy document that says 40%. Then you have a bid summary for the mulch, the rubber mulch at Mosby Park, which they have the equipment removed, and it looks like a construction site at the moment, and that's a good thing. This will allow us to finish off the park once we get everything done with the rubber mulch. Then you have item 10A, which is zoning ordinance 2223, which is again not going through. That's the Parker Avenue. 10B is the North Lee Highway. 10C is the car wash. 10D is the billboard placement. 10E is the nightclub, and then 10F is Stone Lake, G is Stone Lake, and H is Stone Lake. And then you have adopting the tax rate, which goes unchanged at 1.1713. Then you have item J, which is ordinance 2220, amending Title 17, Section 17, 107 municipal code for the sanitary use fees. And then you have item K is 2221, stormwater use fee. Then you have permit fees. Then you have ordinance for the street cuts, and then you have adopting the 23 budget. Any additional questions or your comments?
Any comments or questions from the council?
So, one question, Mr. Rogers, not a question, just a recommendation. Hey, I know our street cut fees are way too low. I don't even think this is gonna be high enough. Is there a way we can track that in the coming year to see how much it costs us after the fact?
Yeah, we're looking at different methodologies.
And this is a small pennies, I get it, but it is in the second district, it is a penny.
Yeah, we have been doing some research that we're getting ready to talk to the utilities on different methodology, how do you compensate for street cuts with utility users? There's different methodologies that you can use instead of because what we do is they put in a permit, they make a street cut, we go out and we do the work and we fill it and we charge them back. And there's some other ways to do that, to make sure that the integrity of once you make a street cut, you're basically losing 10 years of that road's life. So you might pay the $450 or whatever's in there, because that does not relate back to the damage that you've done to that road for an eternity.
Joe, we still do flowable fill, don't we?
We require it. We've seen some times where it's not being used, which is a problem.
Well, I thought it was always used.
It should be. It's our requirement.
Okay.
Just, hey, I'm glad that we're looking at it. More
And
than just
we would
this.
bring-
This
we
isn't
would-
enough. I mean, yeah,
And we bring that back to y'all, so you guys.
I appreciate it.
And Mr. Fivas, since that was created behind you, we've also added O, P, and Q, the two resolutions for CU and the Juneteenth discussion. So, just so we're all on the same page. You can imagine that we've gone to Q. Thank you, Mr. Fivas. Any other questions or comments?
SRF things that are time sensitive, it's better to get them done.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Fivas. That takes us to item number 4 on our 1 o'clock agenda, which is reports from council members. We begin today with Councilman
I'll
May.
wait till 3 o'clock.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hughes is absent. Councilman Webb?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Johnson?
No, sir, no.
Thank you, sir. Councilwoman McKenzie? Thank you, madam. Councilman Estes?
Dr. Dyer, Hal, can we go back to this? You struck a nerve with me.
He might got better flyers.
I need,
Pull that tape.
I may have misheard you. So if Community Tectonics is doing an assessment, I asked if they were working with Brian Templeton. Are they doing any architectural work?
Go ahead.
Yeah, and Hal, I know you said you had more information. I'd love to hear it.
Mr. Taylor, if you would join us at the podium, I apologize, but our staff likes to hear and record.
No, sir, they're doing no architectural work. One of the board members felt that they had hit the previous facility seems right on the money when we went back and looked at the student predictions and all, the previous facility study. It was very accurate. And so from a facility study working with Upland Design, we also had some structural issues with a couple of buildings that Upland Design is working on. That's why they're working together. It's not just the facility study from the future, it's also some building issues we had to have them look at as well. So that's why we used the two companies that are most familiar and probably did 80% of the design of all of our buildings. And we felt like they were already familiar with our system, plus we had some board members that felt that that was a good reason to use them because they had done a previous facility study that was really well on the money with the growth that they predicted.
Okay.
Thanks. That clears it up. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Cassidy.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Joe. Mayor, I've got just two things real quick. I got a call about Starbucks going into Inman Street on Villa Drive. And I think that traffic's being backed up there. And we were supposed to look at that or do something with that. Can we have do you have a time study of what we're gonna do with that? Try to run them through Village Mall instead of backing up to Key Street? Because in the mornings and certain times that backs up quite a bit there.
Yeah, I'll get with David Shealy and see our timeframe, but they have submitted some plans.
Okay. I just had some people call me concerned about it. Somebody's gonna get hurt on that thing. It needs to be rerouted some way. I don't know how y'all wanna do it, but
I'll
reroute
get you
it.
an update.
Okay. Second of all, Jonathan, I'd like to get with you or somebody to go out to Kenny's Lane with me at some point. I've got a couple calls of residents out there. Their flood insurance for some reason has gone up from $900 to $1,100, and I thought that we would alleviate some of those flood, if it's the Corps engineers or, what we could do to help them with that flood insurance to give them the.
It'll go down, but the FEMA, new
Right.
FEMA maps have not been adopted. They've not told us to go ahead and adopt them yet. So
Okay.
they're still being based off the old maps. And
Okay.
then what FEMA also did was they got rid of the grandfathering of the rates. So they're actually seeing real rates now instead of the subsidized rates. So it'll go up before it goes down. And there are several people in that boat. I'm getting calls on that a lot.
Yeah, I am too, and I'd just like to at least have some clarity with FEMA on that part. They were talking about 2 foot, 12 2-foot, it would make a tremendous amount
If they can be 2 foot above the base flood elevation, their insurance will go to the cheapest insurance that FEMA offers.
Yeah, I'd just like to see some clarification from some of the
Yeah.
residents out
We
there.
can meet with them.
If you don't mind, I'd appreciate that. Mayor, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Fivas.
Yeah, and Jonathan, but that has nothing to do with the city, that's
No, that's all
purely,
FEMA.
No,
that's all.
no,
that's
it's all
federal.
FEMA. They were just asking if the city could help to look into that, to
Yeah, I mean,
help their rate somewhat. I've got,
When they let us adopt the new maps, that'll probably help them. It's gonna help most of our citizens.
do you have that new map by any chance?
I have the new maps, they just aren't officially adopted yet.
Okay. Can we do some estimates on it, see if it would help them, or just kind of
Yeah,
give them
we could look at
a
it.
ballpark,
Yeah.
something like that? I appreciate it.
I don't know what the rate will be, but I know what the elevation will.
Okay, if the elevation, they'll be able to call their insurance
Yeah.
and see if they can get
What
something.
is the timeline on being adopted?
Yeah.
They were out for public review when COVID hit and they backed everything off, so I don't know, I'll have to get an update from them. Yeah. They were ready to be adopted after the public review, but
Again, these are individuals on fixed income over there, retired, and they really struggle when they have to pay $200 more, and
there's some
it's-
stories out there where other cities have, where their flood insurance is more than their mortgage. 'Cause they're so far below the flood elevation.
yeah. We don't live in a hurricane area, do we? Yeah, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Fivas.
Yeah, and Mr. Kimball made me aware of a situation that Chris Townsend had made us aware that there was 2 items on the agenda that he thinks that were not properly noticed, and we don't know all the details. So if those 2 items, we may just have the public hearing and then resend the notice to meet any issues with that, because there's no time hurry on that. So just make you aware that may be an issue.
Thank you, Mr. Fivas. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Fivas or anything else? That takes us to announcements, which there are none at the 1 o'clock, which takes us to adjournment. We are adjourned.